So it's not looking good for our junior heroes right now in Boku no Hero Academia, because we see that at the end of episode 9, we have the villains that we saw last week from the bar. Not only are they now making their move, but at the same time they brought way more villains than I thought they were bringing, because I thought maybe it would just be like the 3 or 4 that we saw in the bar, but no, this guy brought like a freaking entire like small army with him. Now, of course, I believe that, most of these villains will probably be filler, but at the same time, we did see some of them, in the opening. So that right there is kind of like spoilerish, especially with the way that this episode was like, set up. So at the same time, we all definitely have a feeling, about, like what's going to go down. But regardless, this episode started off where we have the media. Like, all they could talk about was All Might, and we see them now trying to, like, talk to the students. Like, we had them, approaching, Izuku and Ochako, and both of them were, like, able, to, like, really, get the media off their back. And then we see that but then we see that when they, like, pester, Kazuki, we see now how we got kind of mad because one of these reporters actually remember that that he was the boy who was like trapped by that sludge monster. But we see now that when they like question Tenya, he was the one who was like able to like kind of like bring him down some, because he went kind of like overboard with all the talking he was doing. But we see that when Eraserhead, when it came to them, questioning him, we see now how he was like, All Might out there, he not working today, pretty much, making these excuses. And we see how one of them at least, like recognize him, but most of them thought, he was like too scruffy, so to say, to like be a hero. But regardless, he was like able to like blow them off. And we even see that when like one of the reporters was like trying to like follow him, we see how this school has a defense system where you don't have a pass or an ID, you actually can't get there. But pretty much everyone knew about All Might, working as a teacher, and even the villains. And we see some guy who definitely looks very familiar, because you could tell by the hair and the body shape. This right here is a guy who had, who has all these gloves, on his body. So I was thinking, like maybe that right there was like a permanent thing and they can't come off. But, like seeing him like that, even though we only saw like his backside, that right there, does kind of prove that, that like all this time he does not have to have their gloves on him. So I do wonder like why is this get up or costume like that? Because obviously most of these character costumes, they do somehow like relate to their quirk. But at the same time, I definitely can't like figure this guy out. But regardless, now where everything had like settled down some, we see now that when their classes, were starting, and when it came to homeroom, we see that that Eraserhead, like we see him kind of like scolding, Kazuki, because he was saying how, don't act like a kid so much. And then when we talked to Izuku, I thought maybe he would like tell him, don't be a hero or give up, something like that. But he was like telling him to like just pretty much, like learn to control your quirk, because after a while, that little excuse how we can't control it, that right there won't fly. And so at least that right there was like kind of nice. But we see now that the topic for today was like picking a class rep. And so when it came to that, everybody, wanted to be class rep. And of course, in normal school, nobody really want that. But, and like the UA, a hero school, it's a lot different, because everybody, wanted to be class rep, because that right there would allow their class, to lead them just like how heroes, like lead people. And so everybody was like fighting it. We have like fighting forward. We have Tenya here, who had got the idea about like putting it into a vote, because obviously people would like vote for the most suitable person. And so we see now that because he was the one who had brought that up, he actually didn't get a vote. And to me, I found that like rather hilarious. But at the same time, Izuku, he actually got 3, and so he got 1 from Tenya, He also got one from Ochako, so I do wonder who he got the other one from, because I doubt he would like vote for himself. He definitely doesn't like seem like he definitely doesn't seem like the kind of character who would do that. And so at the same time, we have Katsuki, who was like, you know, being super salty. But I do wonder, now this right here might be a long shot, but what if Katsuki was the third vote for Izuku? Because at the same time, I definitely know that right there is a stretch. But to me, for some reason, I can see that happening. But regardless, now he won. He's the class rep, and we see now Momo, the girl who knew so much, you know, last week, she's actually going to be the deputy. So now both of these, you know, have to work together. And we see now how Momo, you know, she is so calm and collective. She can definitely, you know, be the best in this role. But Izuku, he was so like nervous and shaky. You know, obviously his nerves was like really getting to him. And so now going to their lunch break, where we have, you know, our characters, you know, eating and talking, we actually learn that Tenya has Tenya comes from this family of heroes, and apparently he has a very famous older brother. And so right now his brother name escapes me, but at the same time, both of them seem to have, you know, a very similar quirk, or at least they have, you know, a similar costume, because maybe his brother, like maybe his engine, whatever, that right there might not be in his leg, but it could be in like some other part of his body. But regardless, now his hero is well known, and for some reason he has 65 sidekicks. And now who in the world needs that many? But regardless, his brother is someone who protects and like uphold the rules. And we see how Tenya actually like respects him so much that right there was like the first time we have seen her smiling while he was like talking, you know, about his brother. And like at the same time, Tenya is like actually a rich kid. And so that right there definitely, you know, kind of explains the way he acts as well. And so pretty much now where we have Tenya, you know, once again bringing up the practical exam, because apparently he believes that Izuku, you know, knew the real objective all this time, and it was not just, you know, dumb luck. And Izuku wanted to do the right thing, and just when like he was going to tell him the truth, we see now how this alarm, it was now going off, and that right there was a level 3 alert, which means someone has like broken in and is now, you know, a threat to the school. And so because of that, we see now how all the students were now panicking, and we see how Tenya here, he actually wanted to know what was like going on. And we see now that when he went to the window and looked, you know, all we see is like the media once again trying to be so freaking nosy and pretty much, you know, like learn about All Might. And so we have what's the name, Eraserhead, and that Mike hero, you know, right now I forgot his name, but the Mike hero, he actually said that the media could be like considered villains. And he even asked Eraserhead if he like wants to beat him up, and I was like dying when I read that, because this right here is a hero, and to me, you know, like to me, he had reached this point where he actually wanted to beat up these like regular civilians. Like I don't know why, but I found that hilarious. But Eraserhead, this guy was smart, because he was saying how, you know, if they do that, they'll make, you know, like a bunch of half truths about them, and pretty much, you know, slander them. So they might as well, you know, be smart and wait for the cops. And so when Tenya had realized how like there was no real threat and people were just, you know, overreacting for nothing, you know, he had wanted to find a way to tell them that. And so we see now that, you know, that our heroes from the class that we follow, they were all pretty much being, you know, like forced to go one way. But we see how Tenya came up with this plan where he'll like work with Ochako, and we see now that when she like made him float, you know, all we see him now like using his quirk to like push himself forward. And of course, you know, I was thinking how this right here might end horribly, because he definitely had no control. And so we see now that when he like finally stopped himself, you know, like he was so clear and told them like what was going on, and pretty much he was the one who like calmed them all down. And so when the cops made the media leave, you know, eventually we have we have our nurse and then we see like a panda man, and to me, I'm guessing that right there is the principal. But at the same time, now we see now that this gate that was like used, you know, to keep intruders out, that right there seemed to be melted down. And so to me, I'm thinking that that right there might be our villain, you know, with the gloves quirk. He might have like some kind of like acid base, you know, quirk, but at the same time, that right there would be too similar to a character who could be potentially a main character who was like our bug looking moth girl. But regardless, now, you know, he was somehow able to like take out the gate, and that way, you know, that right there allowed the media, you know, to get in. And so pretty much now, going back to their classes, we see now how Midoriya actually wanted to make Tenya like the class rep, because he was way more suited for the role, because of course he would not be, you know, like nervous and shaky like Izuku is. And so pretty much now we have the others, you know, agreeing with Izuku, because they saw how well he was like able to calm down the situation earlier. And so there, you know, so now we have Tenya, you know, as the new class rep, and then we have Momo saying, you know, what about me? Because now she pretty much like an afterthought. And like at the same time, I find it hilarious how Eraserhead, he pretty much does not care about the class at all. He was like letting them do their own thing. And so now going back to All Might, we see now that the reason why he was not there, it wasn't that, you know, he had a day off. There was just so much crime going down. Like we see Mount Lady, the Wood Ninja, and I'm pretty sure there was like a third hero there, but they were struggling against a villain who had kidnapped this like rich family. And then we have All Might coming in there with this Missouri Smash, and that right there took it out and freed the family. And then we see now how someone had committed a hit and run, and so All Might was like chasing after that car. And we also learn how All Might power is like definitely weakening. He is now slower, but he still has like that monster strength. And so pretty much we also get a flashback of last week where we have Izuku telling All Might that he did tell Katsuki about the truth of his quirk, but at the same time, you know, All Might wasn't that mad, because it seemed that, you know, Katsuki does not believe Izuku at the moment. So that right there did kind of like save him. And so after that, where we have All Might taking out that car who had committed like that hit and run, I'm surprised that guy didn't die. But regardless, now All Might could like get back to his job after he was done saving all these people, because, you know, someone in the neighboring town, they were also in trouble, but unfortunately we cannot see him, you know, take care of that. And so now we see that with Eraserhead back, you know, teaching, we see that there was going to be this like joint exercise going on between him, All Might, and some guest that we have, you know, no idea who that was at first. And so pretty much, you know, this training that they were going to do, that right there was like rescue training. So now we have them all, you know, suiting up, except for Izuku, because of course his costume got, you know, messed up so badly, he had to wear his gym uniform. And so we see now that when they eventually, you know, arrived on the site, oh no, like before that, while they were on the bus, we see now how we see how the frog girl, Tsu, something like that, but pretty much a frog girl, she was saying how Izuku and like All Might has a very, you know, similar quirk. And so of course, you know, that right there caught Izuku off guard, but at the same time, I find it hilarious how this girl, you know, pretty much says whatever is like on her mind. To me, that right there like had me dying. And so now you know, even though she said that nobody was like really believing it, because even though they have a similar quirk, All Might body does not break when he uses it. And so now we see that eventually, you know, we have one student saying how like the two with like the strongest quirk, that right there is Katsuki and the boy with, you know, the half hot and half cold. And so pretty much everybody was like getting on Katsuki because he had a terrible attitude. And so now, while like they were like making fun of him, for some reason Izuku was like freaking out because he thought he would like never see the day happen. And so now when they finally arrive on the site, we see that this other hero whose name is 13, and and right now, I'm not sure whether or not 13 is a man or woman, because even though they said gentleman manly, at the same time his voice is like very feminine, and I'm not saying that right there a man can't have, but at the same time I do wonder, because we never saw what this space hero really looked like. There could be a woman under that, and people could be misunderstanding that as a man. But regardless, now 13's quirk, he can actually make black holes which turn anything to dust. And so even though that quirk is so freaking OP, 13 only uses that, to save people. But even he said how that right there, could be turned around and easily kill someone, because these characters, they have like these amazing quirks. And so right now they need to so right now they have to learn that this power, it can kill somebody. And so pretty much this training area that they had, it was artificially made to have all these like accident and disasters. And so pretty much they had called, we have the students saying how this right here looked like Universal Studio Japan. And so pretty much right now I forgot what the name of it was, but the abbreviation was USJ. Universal Studios Japan. Yeah, there we go, USJ. And so right now they were like freaking out, because they were like kind of right about that. And to me, I found it like rather hilarious. And so right now when the training was like going to get started, we see now how this black portal appeared out of nowhere, and then we have our villains, like popping out. And so we see Eraserhead. He was on guard so freaking fast, like, because we haven't told students not to move, and we see him now putting on these goggles. So I do wonder if this right here will like let him use his powers, more often. But at the same time, he was telling 13 to like to protect the students. And so we also learn how, because All Might was like taking care of other business, he actually ran out of time. So even 13 was like one of the close heroes that that All Might considered, because I'm pretty sure that every teacher in that school doesn't know, but at the same time they might have to. So I'm not really sure, but 13 definitely knew what was up about that. But at the same time, All Might was saying how after a little bit of rest, he will definitely show up at the end. And so right now, it's pretty much a waiting game till he like able to go back in his hero form and come in there and like save the day. But this episode, like I said, to me, it was pretty good setup. Like right now, I'm mainly curious to see what are these villain quirks, and I do wonder just how many Eraserhead can like take out before he needs help. Hopefully we see him take out a real big baddie, and not and not just all these fodder ones who are definitely making an appearance now. But of course, let me know what you guys thought. Don't forget to like and subscribe, because that really helps me out. And as always, you guys take it easy. I will see you all next time.